Hello, I'm Laura Rogers, and welcome to SharePoint Power Hour. All the pop-ups from Slack were getting in the way of the button in the video to switch back over to my face. It's like trying to close out of all the little notifications. So hello, everybody. I see a lot of people joining in Slack, and I want to say hello to everyone and welcome to our I guess this is the first. Is this the first one we've had this year? No, it's not the first one we've had this year. But anyway, I'm Laura Rogers. I have Joelle Jobson here. Joelle, say hello.
Hello, everyone.
And this is, of course, is our show that we do live Wednesdays at 11 Central with topics having to do with anything in Office 365, SharePoint, Flow, PowerApps. And today our topic is going to be Microsoft Flow, and we're going to talk about initiation form, initiation parameters. I wrote a blog post a week or two ago about wonderlaura.com about how to create a flow that generates a Word document with quick parts in it and basically puts the metadata in the quick parts, and then you have this lovely filled in Word document. So what I'm going to demo today is sort of the front end of that and a couple of ways that you could do that where you're actually filling in the initiation form. So say my customer came to me and said, we have this Word document that we want people to be able to quickly just fill in and generate this Word document and have it go in an email. And it really just had like 3 fields in it. So I just created this little initiation form that has, well, first I created it as a flow, just out of the box initiation form and just the initiation parameters. And with those, you can go into the Flow mobile app, and you can, when you go, you have a list of buttons, and you click on the button to start the flow, and then it prompts you with any initiation parameters, and that's where you fill it in and start the flow. Well, these people are just moving to Office 365 from SharePoint on premises. They're barely in SharePoint Online, barely, not even really using PowerApps or Flow yet. So this would be like one of the first things. So I'm not going to, I don't want to have to make people all install the Flow app and have to go push a button to trigger this workflow on their phone. I wanted to be able to just have a web page that they can go to. And this flow isn't, I did write a blog post one time about how to have like an existing document library and a button next to all the items to manually trigger a flow that way on an item. But this isn't triggering a flow on an item. It's triggering a flow that's going to generate a brand new item. So it's really going to generate a document and a document library. They don't even know about the document library. And then it's going to put the quick parts in it and then email them the document. So they don't have to do anything. They just fill in a form and they receive the file, and then they can just hit forward and send it to, their lawyer or whoever they need this file for. Anyway, so I created it that way first, and then I thought, well, there's got to be a way to do just have a URL to that flow to let people just go fill in the initiation parameter. Well, I kind of figured that out later, but what I went ahead and did was I created a Power App as an initiation form. So I'm going to show you the Power App as an initiation form concept, and then I'm going to show you the other way the manual trigger way that you can do it as well. But the Power App way is kind of prettier because you can make the form look nice and look like whatever you want it to look like. Let's see. So I'll go ahead and flip over to share my screen. Joelle, we have a couple more people that just filled in the form and joined. Can you let them in for me? I have to manually approve everybody whenever they go fill out the form to join Slack. So anyway, the chat is at iwmentor.slack.com, and I put a link in the YouTube and a link in where you're watching this video to go fill in the form to go join the chat. So that's where we're having our conversation. Cool. Let's see. Hi, everybody, if it's your first time, and I'm going to go ahead and flip over to my desktop. And here is Flow. So the first thing I want to show you is the flow itself and the way I created it let's see, I think this is the one I did in my blog post. Yeah. So this is the one that I wrote in my blog post. I manually trigger the flow. I enter in a customer name, tax ID, and hours for a project. Just whatever, whatever fields you need to insert into that document. And then it goes in. Now I have just this document library with this template in it. So I'll show you what that is. I'm going to show you what the flow does just real quick, because that's the thing I blogged about already. But I'll go ahead and just show you what it does. So then we'll go to the initiation part. So I have, let's see, this is my site. And I have my statement of work library in here somewhere. My test site with a bajillion things in it. So this is the library, and this is the file. Now for the customer, for the real life situation, I just had a library with a file in it, and that was it. It was just in this one place, and that was the only purpose for the library. It just had this file in it. Now, before I did this, I did try the way we used to do this, where you would create a content type, create a custom content type on the library, and the content type would have that custom template with the quick parts as the template for that content type. But when I was doing the flow and creating the file, it didn't work that way. It didn't let me use that file with the parameters put in it. So I just said, well, I'll just create a file and have it in there, and it just does a create file action and goes and looks at that specific file. It gets the file content, and when it creates a new file, it just puts whatever my name of my customer is, .docx, and then takes the content from that template and puts it in here. And I'm not going to go in depth into quick parts. We actually did in my blog post, I put a link to a Power Hour we did a long time ago about how to insert the quick parts in the document. So then it puts the metadata in the file and gets the file content of the new file, and creates a sharing link. I don't think I ever actually used the sharing link, but it sends an email, and then it puts the file that it generated, the new file, as the attachment in the email. So they don't have to do anything. They just fill out the form and it comes to them. All right, so we're going to use this flow, and I'm going to do a different initiation parameter for it. So I'm going to, let me just make a note real quick so I don't forget. Customer, tax ID, and hours. Okay. And then, so you can't just delete your flow trigger. It's kind of a pain. Everywhere that you're using your flow trigger in all of your actions, you have to get rid of that first. So anywhere I see any of those parts from my trigger, I need to delete those. Good grief. And once I get rid of any references to my trigger, then I can delete it. So then I can add a new trigger. PowerApps. Okay, so I'll be able to go over to PowerApps and, oh, now it doesn't know what the email address is. Okay, hold on, let me just type my name in here. Why isn't it? There it goes. Okay. Any other errors? No. Okay. Now, okay. Over to PowerApps. So I'm going to do a new app. Just doing a standalone app. I'm not customizing list form or anything. Just a plain old standalone app. And you could send them, so when you're sharing this app with people, you could send them a link to it, or you could put it embedded in a web part on a SharePoint page, anything like that. Okay, so here's my new blank app. Well, there's one little setting to kind of pay attention to here is enable app embedding user experience. So it left aligns your app for embedded experiences. So this can, if I do plan on using this app embedded in a SharePoint, using the SharePoint web, PowerApps web part. So I'll do that setting. Let me see, there's no save button or anything. Okay. All right, and then I'll say initiation. Okay, and I'll go ahead and just save it for the heck of it. And this is going to be really, really simple. I'm not going to make it pretty or anything. And you all, the fun of having Power Hour and having us chat in Slack is chatting and asking questions and just having a conversation during, during Power Hour. Ian, yes, that was a huge pain. So he said he's noticed that the input fields in a manual trigger when renamed don't always show up in dynamic content with the rename when you go to use them. Bug, yes. That's all over the forums. I don't know if it's just lately, but like this particular workflow for this customer, I went in there to add a few more parameters and you couldn't find them. And it was everything just it was just hosed up. And we had to create a new flow from scratch and we built the whole flow created from scratch, and that one still didn't work. And then we built a new flow, created just one initiation parameter at a time and went and created it in PowerApps and went and looked at flow and it was there and everything was there, and then created another one and looked and it was there and saved. And like, so we did just like one parameter at a time, and that one we're like, okay, that's good. And we had like 10 of them in there and it was fine. So it was weird, but yeah, that is a bug, at least right now. Okay, so I'm not going to do anything fancy or complicated. I'm just going to insert a few text boxes, like really, really simple. And just not spending too much time on this, because the look of it is not what we're looking at today. It's the functionality. Okay, just a few labels and input boxes. So this is going to be customer, and I'll name these all appropriately too. So kind of getting good habits of doing that. And then I don't want that to say anything by default necessarily. And then I'll say, oops, that's text, not label, etc. So this one's going to be tax ID. And that's label tax ID. That's the fun of doing this live, is you get to watch me do all this like just boring, time-consuming stuff. And then one more. That's why I'm only doing 3 parameters. I don't want to spend too much time on this. And then I'm going to do the next one is hours. And label hours. Okay, and then I'm going to have a submit button, right? I'll go ahead and put a button in here, say submit. Okay, that'll do, that'll function. So I'm just going to enter in the customer tax ID and hours, and there isn't, since this isn't a customized SharePoint list, this isn't a form control or anything. So one just simple way of making sure that it's just 3 fields. So one simple way of making sure that they're required is to put like a condition on this button to make it disabled if all 3 things aren't filled in. And you could like make a box around it red or something if it's not filled in. Maybe if we have time a little bit later, we'll tackle those things. We're just going to go ahead for our test. We're just going to fill them in every time. And in your flow, you actually, with the flow initiation parameters, the ones I just deleted, you can actually make those required or optional in the settings as well. Okay, so that is, I don't have the submit button doing anything now. So I can go to action, the action tab here, and I can choose flows here. So now so which one of these is my flow? This one, let me go double check that. Verbal recertification, yeah, that's what it was. So that's the name of the flow that I'm going to use. So I'll pick verbal recertification, and now it's adding it. Okay, now what I need to do is, see, it doesn't have the parameters in here, and that's kind of what he was talking about, where it usually goes and gets them. Now, it doesn't have any parameters in this one because I haven't created any yet. So let me show you how to go create those. I'll go ahead and save this and go over to the flow. Now, I haven't done anything in here that would give it any parameters because it's initiating. And then remember all the references that I had to my flow initiation, I took them out. So I need to create those again. So for like the file properties, I'm going to say I want the customer to be, remember I have the three things, customer, tax ID, and hours. So for the customer field that I'm going to update, I need to go in here and click see more and choose ask in PowerApps. And when I choose ask in PowerApps, that's what creates the initiation parameter. So I need to go put it in the fields anywhere in the flow that I need them and click ask in PowerApps. So here are the three fields and ask in PowerApps like that. All right. So now I have those three things created. Now I'm actually going to use for this file name that it's going to generate, I'm going to use the customer name for that too. And then let's see, where else did I have that? Send an email is going to be, now I want to send it to, first of all, you could just create an extra parameter that asks you the email address of who you want to send this to. You could do that. But in this case, I'm just going to go look at basically the created by for this new file, created by email. That should be the person that ran the flow, because the person that's running the flow it's creating the file in SharePoint as them. And then I'm going to say statement of work for a new customer, and that's another place that I need the customer's name. See, here's customer. Yeah, so there are my three parameters. Let's see. Krishna says, when you click ask in PowerApps, how is it populating the right variable? It's creating it right then. So it's looking at the name of this field right here, hours, and it's just putting update file properties hours. So this is a update file properties action. And it's just, that's just the name that it's giving it. It's just saying update file properties hours, update file properties customer, update file properties tax ID. And so it's just generating those based on the names of those fields just automatically. No. So nothing's been mapped yet. So that was just me clicking in this field and clicking ask in PowerApps, and that's what creates these three things. So as long as you have this as your initiation parameter, whatever fields you click in and click ask in PowerApps, that's going to create your parameters. Cool? All right. So now I'm going to save this. Let's go see. And let me go back to, well, of course I haven't refreshed this or done anything with it. So let me go just in case. I'm going to close it and reopen it. Now, sometimes it actually just changes live just on the fly right in front of your eyes. So we'll see if maybe that bug is going to strike us today. Joelle, can you think of like any projects you've worked on where people need to manually initiate workflows? It's not that common to me.
Yeah, I was trying to think about that earlier actually when you first started. I used to see it a lot more, but now mostly things are, they want things to start automatically. So I'm trying to think of. It's
Yeah,
probably
most of
just
them,
like where
it's
basically where
like
they just
dumbed
need to
down.
input
You don't
something.
want people to
Yeah.
have to think, right?
Yeah, and if they're inputting anything, they're wanting to input it in like a list or something. You know what I mean? In the list itself that
Yeah.
workflow's running
Yeah,
on.
and that's another thing you could do instead of doing initiation form or using a flow initiation form. You could just use a blank, just plain old SharePoint list and have that be the initiation form. So they said, can you rename the parameters? No. So what I think one of the issues that I've been doing in here, you know how I went down here and I created these as update file properties hours, but then I used the update file properties in the create file action. I'm thinking that might be an issue. So I'm going to just take out the other places where I used to update, just in case, just because I'm trying to narrow it down and make sure that I can at least get this functioning. Okay. I don't have any, I'm going to get rid of this one. I'm not using that. Okay. Save. All right. And then back over here, button, action, flows. And then I'm going to reselect this. I hope this bug isn't going to rear its ugly head. No, it's not. Okay, there they are. Okay, so now notice that a minute ago in the run box, I only had just parentheses and a closed parentheses, and that was it. But now look at that. Now it has my three. So when in doubt, if you are trying to do this and you don't see your parameters here, see what I did? I just removed this line from the on select completely, so they weren't associated with each other anymore. And then, I just added it back and now they appeared. So I have found that you do have to kind of finagle with it a little bit. Yeah, like Jamie said, have to remove the flow from the app and re-add it to get the parameters to refresh. Christian says, can we change the parameters name to more user-friendly? There's no reason for them to be user-friendly. The users aren't going to ever see them. So why would they need to be user-friendly? Okay, so now in this run command, I need to tell it what values to put in those three parameters. So the customer is going to be this text box. So txt customer, whatever I type in that text box, that's going to be the customer. That value that I type in the text box is going to go into the customer parameter. And then the hours is going to be txt hours dot text. And then the tax ID is going to be txt tax ID dot text. And now, so you understand this is where the mapping happens. So now I told it asked me the parameter. It said what needs to go in the update file properties customer parameter. And I said, okay, this value. And then it said, what needs to go in this parameter? This value that's in this box, and then this parameter. So that's how you fill them in. You fill them in this command, in this run command. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and try that out. Save. And then it doesn't really matter. I don't need to publish. I'll just preview it. And let me get out of my flow. So it's going to create a file and okay, go ahead. George of the Jungle. Now you'd want to, there's some things you'd want to do in the Power App, like at least do a notify that tells them that their thing had been submitted, and then you want to clear the form out, and it's extra stuff that we might have time to do. Okay, so now let's go see if the flow ran 17 seconds ago. It did run. So it sent, look at that. So it says the customer, George of the Jungle, 88 hours, tax ID. So this is a number field. So that's why it looks different. That's a number, let's see, in the SharePoint library, it is created as a number column. So that's why it looks different. And then it gets the content, creates the file, and then let me go to my little test mailbox here. Okay, and there's my statement of work. Notice it doesn't have the customer name as the name of the file. I'm going to have to go figure out how to put that back. So this is where it actually put, those are my quick parts, and that's where you can read in my blog post. Can somebody put the link to that blog post in the chat for me, please? Okay, so that's the where it says statement of work for, and that's the customer name, and then it says tax ID hours, and then it even has like the George of the Jungle down here, and so that's where it puts in the quick parts. Pretty cool, right? Golf clap, yay! So that works. So now I'm going to show you another way. I'm going to show you another way to do the manual trigger, and then I'm going to then we'll go back to the PowerApp if we have time to like tweak it and do some extra things with it. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to save as, and I'll just do copy. I'm just going to do a copy of it real quick, which is awesome. I wish we would have had that functionality in SharePoint Designer all those years. It's painful. You could copy and paste later on, with SharePoint Designer 2013. But so I made a copy of it, and it's not enabled yet. So I'm going to take the PowerApps thing back out of it, and I'm going to take all the PowerApps references out of it first. See, in the real world one that I did, after I sent the email, I just deleted that original file. This file that I had created, I just deleted it because the whole purpose of that library was just to make a copy of the template, generate the file, and then send it in an email, and they weren't ever going to go to the library. So it just, the end of the flow, it just deleted that file with the customer name on it. But that's up to you. I don't know if I don't think I put that in my blog post, but that's up to you as to what you'd actually do with that file, or if you'd send them a link to it or something like that. That's where you could use one of those sharing link actions to generate a sharing link. Okay, let's see. Send an email. So I don't think I have any more references to that. Okay, I'm going to delete that. Now I'm going to do a manual trigger again. And I'll put customer, and then you could even make them have a word in here. Who is the customer? And that's that word that shows in the form, like in the box before they fill it out. And if you're going to do that in PowerApps, you would use the hint text, and that would be who is the customer. Let me just show you that real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Let's see. See, that's the hint text that shows in the box before they start typing in it. Anyway, so that's the same concept that this is right here. So then the next one is a tax ID, which is got to have hyphens in it and stuff. So it's going to be text. And the next one is a number, which is hours. Okay. And then see right here is where you can make them required or not. So these are all required now. They're required by default. Let's see. Jamie says if you rename the action before clicking Ask in PowerApps, the variable will use the custom action name. Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, that's true, Jamie. That's totally right. So do y'all understand what he's saying? So if I, instead of update file properties, and then when you generate the Ask in PowerApps parameters, it just says update file properties. But what he's saying is that, now I can't rename this because I'm already using it in other places, but if you rename your action and it says something else at the top of it, then something else other than update file properties, then at least that part of that little name that it generates would be something more custom. So that's a great point, Jamie. Great point. See, so rename this, and then whenever you generate those, it'll have whatever name this action has, and then underscore, whatever the name of the field is. So great, good idea. That's why I love having you all having this whole chat and conversation during Power Hour, is that y'all have great ideas, and I love just kind of kicking the stuff around with you all. It's so much fun. Okay, now I've got my manually trigger a flow, and then I want to go put those back in here. So I'll have the customer, hours, and tax ID, And I can even use like the parameter of the person who manually triggered the file. See, user email, that's going to be the person that triggered it. So I can use their email address to send that person the email. I could also put just the customer name. I don't know how often or how much people care about the file's title, but I could use the customer as the file's title too. Anyway, I'm just going to leave that as well, let me put it as customer because now I'm going to have multiple files in my little test library. So I'll put customer as the file name that it generates. Okay, now I've got my manually triggered flow, and I can run. Oops. Oh, it's not enabled. It says if you select a SharePoint action, you'll still have to enter the info in the required field. Mark is not required in Flow, but the library has the field required. Who wins? Oh, well, Ed, the library is not going to go backwards and tell Flow. It's not going to travel up. Information is not going to travel up the flow and tell Flow that the field is required and would make you fill it in because it's required. So you're just going to have to know to make it required in the Flow manual initiation, because then your workflow would get an error if they didn't fill it in the parameters and then the library needed it. Except libraries nowadays are a lot different. So just recently, like, libraries don't care about required fields. So it could very well just go ahead and create the file and then just have one of those, like, the row is yellow because it's missing required information. Yeah, that's fun, right? Oh, great. Yeah. Okay. Now, okay, so we're going to go run this. Run now. So now it's going to ask me my, Krishna says there a way to add date timestamp along with customer name in the file to avoid conflict. Yeah, sure. Because there is a, let's go look at that real quick. There is a, now, of course, in the case where I'm just deleting the file at the end of the workflow, it doesn't matter, but there is a date here. So see, it captures a lot of this stuff automatically. Like, you have to have location services on your phone when you try to run a manual action in Flow, because it captures all this stuff. So the date is automatically captured. See, like that. Now, I don't know what that's going to turn out, trying to put a date in the file name, because I'm not sure what the syntax of that date is going to be, but we'll see. Alrighty, and let's see, I thought about doing the copy file action and just copy the template to be a new file, but when you do copy file, you don't have a parameter in the flow telling you like the ID of the new file. You have no information about what the new file is to be able to use it later in the workflow to update file properties and stuff. So that's why I use create file. Okay, I'm gonna run it now. See, they're all required. When you use a manual trigger, how would an end user or contract manager start the flow without going to flow? Exactly, Nicholas. That is the whole point of this power hour. That is the whole point. That's what I'm going to show you. So yeah, how we don't want people to have to go to their app on their phone to click on the flow and click the button, and we don't want people to have to go in here and click run. That's ridiculous. We want to just give them a link that's got a nice pretty web page that gives them their parameters to fill in, right? So let's go see. It looks like it ran successfully. It did create the file. Yeah, blah blah 2019 116. So that did put the date on it, so that's good. It's not too bad. And then it sent it to me. Yep, there we go, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that worked. Now, this is the next this is the next sort of phase of, thanks, Nicholas, of the Power Hour is with the manual flows that have this manual trigger also have that little this little run only users thing. So we have run only users, and we can invite users. Let's see, do this fake user here, Billy. There we go, Billy Bob. So I'm going to put Billy Bob as a run only user, and then it's going to use his credentials when he runs to SharePoint, and he's going to use his credentials to Outlook, which is perfect. That's what I want it to do. And then this let others run this flow and see the results, but not edit in any way. This part, I have to be honest, I am still a little sketchy on what exactly that does. So I'm going to, actually Joelle and I are in the middle of like thoroughly testing this whole concept right here, because we're putting together our flow, like official flow class at IW Mentor that we're almost done writing and creating all the content. So that's one of the things that we're thoroughly testing to make sure we understand how it works and how to explain how it works. So to be honest, I'm not sure right now off the top of my head what this does. Okay, so now Billy Bob, let me refresh this page. Billy Bob is not an owner. He can't edit the flow, but he can run it. Now, why is this not? That's weird. Did I not click save? Billy Bob. Oh yeah, I gotta save it. Anyway, okay, so I added Billy. So you'd have to add all the people here that you would need to run it, or I believe you could use an Active Directory security group. I haven't tried that yet either. So, I mean, who's going to want to sit here and go manually add a bunch of people here to let them run the flow? But let me show you what Billy Bob's interface looks like. So I'm going to go log into here as Billy Bob, and Billy's, come on. Now I'm still like, if I'm Billy Bob, no, not that. Billy. Make sure I'm in the right tenant. Yeah, there we go. If I'm Billy Bob, how do I get to the flow now? And I thought that was a little weird, because I go log into flow as Billy, and Billy doesn't have it listed or anything. So I gave him the ability to run the flow, but how's he going to run it? Then I went and looked at Billy's email. So when I invited him to the flow, he got an email. And this is how he can run the flow. It has a button in the email. So this takes him to this page to manually run the flow. So, so that's how Billy runs the flow. And it's still, when he goes back to flows, he still doesn't see it there. So he just has this link in his email. So this link is going to be what you can send people to get to this flow. Of course, they have to have access to be able to run the flow, which again, I haven't thoroughly tested all the different ways that you can add people. But this, and I'll put it like in Notepad or something here. It's got, now of course this is my environment, but this part out here, this is that's the ID of that specific flow. This ID up here is the ID of my environment, but this is the ID of that specific flow. So it's flow/run. So that is the URL that you could just go put like in a hyperlink on a homepage of a SharePoint site, or, you know, wherever, to let people click on it to manually run the flow. And again, I didn't discover that until after I had done the whole PowerApps way of doing it. But, you know, the thing about this is he has to now remember to go back and find this email and click the button in the email to run the flow. That is the only way that he has to run the flow. So again, having that link and being able to take that link and put it like on your web page or something is where other people can get to it is going to be what you want to do. Now, I wonder what happens when I take him off of it. I'll take, I'm going to remove him. Okay. And save. So now I have no, I have nobody, so he doesn't have access anymore. So now what happens? What's he going to get if he tries to go to that link? Oh, I got to go to Billy's mail. Oh, you don't have permission to access or run this flow. All right, and I bet if he clicks request access, it's going to send me an email. So access requests for flows, that's a whole other concept, right? I haven't, yep, there it is. Billy Bob has requested access. He's requested permission to use copy of verbal recertification. So this is basically, takes me straight to the manage run only permission screen. And so I can add Billy. Now, I don't think I have any, I don't know if I have any actual Active Directory permission groups of people in this little test tenant to be able to try that, to see just putting a whole group in there. But and the next thing to try would be, you know, adding that SharePoint library as an owner and seeing if people have access to the library can get to, can run that flow. So anyway, oh, I added it as an owner. I didn't mean to do that. Anyway, so I'm not going to do all that right now in Power Hour. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, how many more questions? Oh, Nicholas said try everyone. Okay, I'll try one more thing. I'll try everyone. Not owners though. Let's see. Oh, that's weird. Where did it go? That whole run. Maybe I broke it. So that looks fine. Manually trigger the flow. Instead of remove the oh, here it is down here. Manage run only permissions. He said try everyone. No. No. Yeah. So again, I'm not sure in this domain, in this demo tenant, what my AD groups are off the top of my head. So I'm not going to try and do that right now. Okay, so let me go back out of there and we'll go talk a little bit more about that initiation form and get that running a little smoother. So just one way to make this so that they can't submit it, and unless they're all filled in, is to disable the submit button. So to disable a button, you would put the display mode at, instead of edit, it would be disabled. Display mode disabled, whatever. So now it's disabled. So we want to do a condition and say if this is blank, this is blank, this is blank, then make it disabled. So I'm going to say for the display mode, I'll do a condition if, and then I'll do txt is blank. If is blank txt customer, or is blank txt tax ID. Oh, I gotta put the dot text in there. Or is blank hours dot text if, oh, I didn't close that one. Nigeli, it didn't even give me everyone or everyone except eternal. Like it just errored out when I typed the word everyone. So it didn't, yeah, that wasn't the same as like, it didn't seem like a normal like people field in SharePoint. It was a little different. Okay, so if this is blank, or this is blank, or this is blank, then display mode dot disabled. Display mode dot disabled. Otherwise, display mode dot edit. I don't know why sometimes it puts the thing in front of it or not. Anyway, I'm going to make this congruent. There. Now it looks even. So now one of these is blank, see? Now when I fill it in, the button's enabled. But let's see, one. Now I can click it. Okay, so that's one way. That's only 3 fields, so if you have a form that's got a bajillion fields, that might not be the best way to do it. You can also do like the color, the border color or something like that. So border color, if is blank dot text, then red, otherwise black. So then it would be red when they're not filled in yet, that kind of thing. And you could do a red asterisk or something like that. But those are just a couple of ways you can make the form, you know, make them fill those fields in. Let's see. Lise, L-I-S-E, asked, how do you do the OR symbol? That's the pipe. That is the pipe symbol. It's above the enter key on my keyboard. Yeah. Everybody started typing pipes in there. And you could start doing ASCII art with the pipes. Okay. Another thing you'd want to do is after they submit it and that data goes, then it goes to flow, then you'd want to clear this back out. So one thing, let's see, I've got like 13 more minutes though. I'll go ahead and do that. So then you'd want to clear that out. So then I could have a variable that I use to clear those. So each of these is going to have a reset. So this reset property, so the reset property is what you can use to reset it, to clear it out. So this is not, again, this is not a form control. I did not insert a form on here. These are just, I just inserted like 3 text box and 3 labels. That's it. So when you're doing a form control, there is a reset form command. There's submit form, there's reset form, there's those easy ways to do it. But this is not a form, which is why I'm having to do all this, you know, kind of custom stuff. But it's good for learning, right? Let's see. Nicholas said, what's the shortcut for concatenate? It's the ampersand. Is there a link to the shortcuts? PowerApps actually just put out a huge documentation manual, like a PowerApps best practices manual, like huge white paper. And I just saw it the other day, like on the PowerApps blog or something. I don't know the link to it off the top of my head, but it has like all kinds of stuff like that. But in their documentation has that stuff too. I just don't know off the top of my head where it is. Now the single ampersand versus the double ampersand do 2 different things, Nicholas. A single ampersand is going to concatenate like words together. A double ampersand means do this and this at the same time. So it is like the do this, ampersand, ampersand, do this, and that's like, well, like do 2 things simultaneously. So yeah. Kind of like, yeah, anyway. Okay, so I will go ahead and let me make sure you all can see what I'm doing. Zoom in a little bit. We'll do the reset thing. So when you submit this, I'll go ahead and click format text so it kind of puts it out nice and neat and laid out. I'll do a set a variable. I'm just going to call it var reset. This is a very small form. I don't have that many variables. I don't have any other variables in here. So that's pretty simple. So var reset to true. And then set to false. Oh, and it's just confused because that variable doesn't exist yet. But once I run it, then it will exist. So, ooh, it let me submit. It let me click the button without having this thing filled in. That's weird. So I'm not using this yet. That's why it's confused. Okay, so I can't use, say, to do something with this variable. I'm not using it anywhere. So it's just, yeah. So the variable for reset is going to go in here. That is odd that it's being so... What did I do? If... Oh, I put it in the display mode. Duh. Look at it. See, I wasn't in the on select. I was in the display mode property. You all are fired. You didn't tell me that. Okay, so verbal recertification, yeah. I may or may not have done that before. There we go. So when they click the button, I was still in, y'all see what I did wrong? I was still in the display mode property up here. I wasn't in the on select property, so display mode was kind of confused about what I was trying to do with setting variables. So now when I click this button, it's going to set, for some reason you have to toggle it, like set it to true and then false. So let me go ahead and just try that. Oh yeah, so it reset it. Nice, huh? And then I probably want to do a notify. So I'll do on select, I'll do a notify before it resets it. Notify. And then what? Here. Notify, what am I going to say? Thanks for submitting. And I'll show you how to use that fun little ampersand. And then I'll put the customer. TST customer.text, and it's going to say the name of the customer, form, and then what kind of notification is it? I'll just do success. Okay, let's try that. Look at that. Thanks for submitting. And then that was the name of the customer that I typed in there, 1456. So it put that in there. So now I see I could do another one. Bob. Thanks for submitting Bob form, and that resets it. So since and then I can embed this in a web as the PowerApps web part. And that's why I would want it to just, you know, clear it back out and leave it there. Now, of course, if you're in an app and the app has a bunch of other stuff that the app does, you would want to probably navigate them back to the home page of the app too. So you'd put a navigate function. But this one, it's just, this is all this app does. It's this one little form, and it's just going to stay embedded on this page, or somebody's going to click a link to it and go to this. Again, that's another way that you could do it, is when I... like that other option I showed you was to give them a link to that, put them in the run only users and give them that link we saw in the email. But another thing that you could do would be to do this PowerApps thing, create it as a PowerApp initiation form, and then see this right here, you can go to details, and then this is the link. So I could embed it in a Power App, or I could just, in a Power App web part, or I could just take this link to this initiation form and I could send that to people. I can put the link in just a hyperlink on the homepage of their SharePoint site or whatever, but this is another way that you could just give them a link to go fill out the form. Krista says we should go look at the flow status after all those submissions. Yeah, let's go see what happened. So this is the one that the Power App ran. Yeah, they all succeeded. Of course, this one I still had it creating the file as test, so it was just overwriting that same file each time. And none of those fields were required in the library, so it's fine. Yeah, it worked fine. See, hours 8, customer Bob, tax ID 7. All right. That was fun, right? Just kind of random, various different ways to run a flow. Did that all make sense? You get the form as a Power App that you can send them. You got the flow initiation button in the flow app that they could click to run it, or you have the way that you could create it as a manual trigger and allow them to be a run only user. See, run only users. Make sense? Awesome. Oh, you found it, Joelle? Is that the PowerApps coding standards and guidelines? Cool. Yeah, Joelle put a link in the chat to that. So that looks just like somebody's blog or something like that. Oh no, that's PowerApps. I was like, hands-on lab. What is that? But okay, yeah, no, there it is. Nice. Yeah, that's got a ton of stuff. Because in my PowerApps class that I teach, a lot of this stuff I actually have a slide that like suggests some, standards for your abbreviations when you're naming your controls. But now they've put out, like, now you have an official way. But a lot of these are the same way that I was doing it already. So that's perfect. Like gallery is gal, form is form, and like, see, text input txt, that's what I was doing. And LBL, you saw when I was naming my PowerApps controls, that's what I was putting in the front of the names. So now there's an official book that you can read. Our next PowerApps live class is February 4th through 7th. Check it out at iwmentor.com. And if you are not familiar with IW Mentor, we also have a free PowerApps 5-day email course that you can sign up for on there. And if you've done the email course in the past, and a lot of people were not, like, spam filters were catching those emails, because I had a whole bunch of steps and pictures and stuff in the email. So I think it's because the emails had a bunch of pictures in them. People's spam filters were catching them. But now I made it so that you're going to have all your context just on our, like, you'll get the email every day, but it'll have a link to our web page, and it'll have that whole day's worth of content on a web page, so that the email's not so full of links, so that they don't get blocked. So if you signed up for it in the past, now you can still go log in at iwmentor.com, and when you go look at your PowerApps beginner or power user email course, you'll actually see all the content in there. So if you ever missed any of those emails or anything, or didn't get them at all, you'll still be able to go in there and see all that content and take a quiz at the end. So fun. All right, thanks everybody for coming, and have a good afternoon and Happy New Year. And y'all check out let me go back over here, the SharePoint conference. You can see this little logo here. I'm going to be speaking at the SharePoint conference in May. Register now, use my code Rogers to get a discount, and come to my all-day PowerApps and Flow workshop. It's a post-conference workshop, so I want y'all to check that out. See you later. Have a good evening or good afternoon, everybody. Bye. See you in Vegas.